What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis here, your coach of the Helsinki Hydreigons, and we are here for the UBL Season 3 Week 2 battle versus OPJellicent and his team being the Toronto Leaf Storms. Make sure to check out my opponent after this video. His YouTube channel link will be down below in the description, and also make sure to check out for my behalf my graphics helper in SlackOut. His YouTube channel and Twitter account will be also down below in the description. Big shoutouts to him by helping me out with all the graphic things regards to my channel. So those are big shoutouts that I wanted to get out of the way. The team of 6 that I'm gonna be bringing is gonna be Glysko, Celebi, Diancie, Dragalsi, Alamomola, and Greninja. This is basically a Trick Room team with a Crasnium Sea Greninja as a speed control outside of the Trick Room in itself. If you want to know more in depth about the sets individually and more in depth at what they are supposed to be doing into this matchup and what is kind of like my general thoughts about the matchup in itself that we are jumping into, there should be a team builder video uploaded prior to this one. It went up yesterday, so if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check it out if you're more interested in more in depth about the team that I'm bringing. My opponent for this matchup, he is going to be deciding to bring Rotom Heat, Mega Latios, Cobalion, Cramble, Crobat, and Manaphy. So that is going to be the lineup that we are going to be seeing in this battle, and let's go and see how it's going to be turning out. I'm going to be leading up with my Glysko because I really valued Stealth Rocks in this matchup, and I felt like barring Manaphy I have a relatively good matchup versus everything. I do have to watch out for a potential taunt from Crobat and Cobalion, and Rotom Heat, which is going to be his lead of choice, does give me a little bit of headache and having to make a decision and predict does he have hidden Will-O-Wisp versus me or not. And that's gonna be the case that he does have Will-O-Wisp on this set, which I wasn't too sure if it's going to have versus me. But in a hindsight, it actually makes sense him for running it, and this was something that I immediately turned one look back on, that I should have just made the safe play, go into Diancie and Dragalsi, take the Will-O-Wisp burn, even though I really want to them being as healthy as possible. But at this point, I make the call and the risk of staying and go for the Stealth Rocks and then U-turn out. Hopefully he didn't have defog, but he did end up having it. So those first 2 turns I didn't really get anything out of it, and he was able to accomplish exactly what he wanted to. And Glysko, while it's being burned, makes it a little bit weaker. I thought that, well, at the moment I thought it was worth of the risk, but in a hindsight obviously it wasn't really worth of the risk. So it was a misplay for my behalf, and now after that I got Diancie in versus the Rotom Heat. I figured that okay, this is a free Moonblast, he's not gonna stay in. I didn't want to go into Dragalsi because I am TheChoiceSpecs and he has both of his Steel type and his Fairy type on this matchup, so I didn't feel comfortable clicking one of those stab moves. So I figured that Diancie has the most spammable stab move to click versus him, which does generate good damage and can deal with the Rotom Heat. And here he went into his Cobalion and went for the Iron Head versus my Diancie. And I went into my Glysko first to kind of scout the damage that he would be doing. And afterwards that, I wanted to scout for the Steelium Sea, because Steelium Sea could have killed me at that range. And I figured that, you know what, if I find an opportunity to get up my Stealth Rock with Glysko, I wanted to preserve it just in case if he happened to run that, but he didn't seem to have it, because otherwise I felt like he would have gone for it. So here we are gonna be able to tell that he actually has Stealth Rocks, and now we are able to 1v1 it with the Alamomola, thanks to the Rocky Helmet and the Liquidation chip damage combined, are able to finish off the Crobat from that range. So that didn't really, those couple of first turns, they didn't really go in my way, but I'm still in an okay position. The crit on the Alamomola does suck a little bit, cause I would have been able to gain a lot more health back from it than I have to take now right now, because of the Stealth Rocks being up and I don't have a remover. And until I'm able to force him potentially defog, my Alamomola is gonna be a little bit less healthy than I would have been able to otherwise. But he brought his Manaphy in, went for the sub. I had to go into my Celebi to respond to it immediately before he tries to capitalize on my Alamomola. And now, as you can tell, he's going to be freezing me. And this sucks, cause even though I have Natural Cure, I have to now swap out, and he knows that. And that gave him a free tail claw in a position that he should have not have had the opportunity to go for it as easily. And that really sucks, because even though my Greninja can take the Water Stab and the potential Ice Beam from +3, this weakens down my Greninja to the point that he cannot take a neutral Paper from the Crobat anymore after Stealth Rocks, as I would have otherwise been able to potentially. Or I believe with my spread I should have been able to do that. To the point that Surf under the Torrent and plus the Water Shuriken would have been able to 1v1 it if that ever would have come into play. But now, because I had to take that damage, I had to go for the Dark Pulse to break this up, and then I'm forced to go for my Grass Nimshi, and he makes a good play scouting it, knowing the fact that Cramble doesn't have really any purpose on this matchup because I didn't bring my Mega Gallade, and just a lot of things haven't gone into my way so far, and because of that freeze that he was able to get off of, also the Volt Switch crit that he did to my Diancie, you will see later on that it's gonna force me to play differently with it, because it's actually now in a range of a Earthquake from a Mega Latios if he is max attack, and I'm not able to free swap into it. So I'm a very awkward position because of a lot of things. Either I have, with the Gliscor I misplayed, with the other things it's kind of been like I've been very unfortunate so far. I'm putting myself in a tough position, and now he goes into his Rotom Hit, and I go into my Gliscor, basically just sacking it off, to the point that I can make a decision between Dragalsi, Diancie and Celebi. But after he goes for the overhit, you're gonna see that I actually end up going to a Alomomola, and that sucks, because that's actually a timeout that happened on this turn. I was very indecisive between that. Do I want to go into Celebi, get up the Trick Room and risk a potentially a crit overhit if he chooses to go for that? Do I go into Diancie? Do I go into Dragalsi here to claim a kill and let something else come in and put pressure back on me? But in the end, after I didn't make a call on any of them on time, it kind of went into worst case scenario that I went into my Alomomola. I was like, you have to be kidding me. Everything has gone into against my way so far, and then I kind of make it worse for myself because I took so much time on that turn, and then I had to go for the Light Screen with Alomomola, try to get most, try to kind of make up for the most that I can from that turn because of the kind of like a mistake that I made. It was more so me timing out, which forced me to play differently. And this is the turn where I kind of couldn't go into Diancie as freely that I intended to do throughout my team builder to a potential Earthquake, which is very likely move for him to run versus me, because I wasn't in a comfortable enough range of taking it after Stealth Rock. So I have to use Celebi as a pivot to this, get up the Trick Room, and then go for the U-turn from here, as he revealed to have Earthquake and Ice Beam so far. And now I do pretty good damage with the U-turn at this point, which is pretty nice. But this is a very tough turn and call for me to make, because I could have gone into Alomomola, but I didn't like the idea that I bring Alomomola in under a Trick Room and it's not able to provide any kind of offensive pressure. So I kind of made a call of sacking Greninja down, which can suck if I don't have enough going for me with the Trick Room later on and something to outspeed the Mega Latios. But I'm banking on this point that Dragalsi and Diancie together under the Trick Room can clean out the game from here and do the most that I can. So I decide that Greninja is going to waste the least amount of turns of the Trick Room so I can get this monster in and start clicking TheChoiceSpecs Dragon Pulse versus him. And now we are able to two-shot the Rotom Hit at this point, which unfortunately does burn 2 turn of Trick Room to the point that there's only 1 turn of remaining. And now the Crobat comes in, and this is very crucial because if this is a offensive spread for the most part and doesn't have too much bulk, I have a very high chance to kill it. But it turns out to the point that I miss out on it. This actually, after the battle when we talked about it, this was a 40% chance for me to kill. So it was pretty close to 50-50 roll and a coin toss in that sense, a little bit more on his favor. But considering how many, like, he has gotten 2 crits so far on my Alomomola and on my Diancie, which kind of left them more weakened than they're supposed to be, and then obviously the freeze on Celebi. Normally I would not be upset about the roll, but that salt is still feeling on my veins a little bit about that I couldn't get that at least going for my way. So that really sucks, and that puts or takes away a huge offensive weapon that I could have utilized on the Trick Room. So this becomes pretty much a dicey endgame for me to try still make something happen with the resource that I have left, which is Celebi, Diancie, and the Alamomola. Celebi being very weakened. Diancie also take a little bit too much damage at this point. And here I kind of tried to scout him to have the Steel Wing, as you are able to tell that I was swapping back and forth between the Diancie and the Alamomola. I tried to bait him go for the Steel Wing versus my Diancie, so that he would die to the recall from the Rocky Helmet. But it ended up being that he showed to have the taunt, probably preventing me to go for a Trick Room or a Rock Polish, which is definitely a good play from his behalf since he happened to carry it. That was his second best choice that he could have had done. And at that point I was like, okay, well at least I get the berry. Depending on his timid or modest, I have a chance to live this hit, and I do live it. And I am able to set up the Trick Room at this point, living that Surf from Manaphy. And now I go for the Moonblast at this point, hoping that I get a special attack drop so my Celebi can 1v1 it a little bit easier onto the Trick Room and be able to actually start gaining some health back. But I don't get the 30% chance on that point, but it is what it is. And at this point I only have Celebi, Alamomola left versus his Manaphy and Megaladios. So we are in a 2-2 situation, but I don't feel really comfortable that what I can really make out from here to potentially win out. But I try to at least 1v1 this Manaphy. I haven't seen its item, but in case you didn't see the team builder, after I mentioned that if it doesn't show up to have leftovers and doesn't seem to be expert belt because it's supposed to do more damage than it is able to do so far, it shows to be that Rindo Berry, meaning that I miss out on that kill. And if I would have been able to not get frozen earlier, I would have been able to pop this earlier. And I could have been able to maybe finish this thing off a little bit earlier. But at this point, I could have tried to start recovering more and try to play around with recovered Trick Room to the point that I would be a lot healthier about this exchange. But because how much the RNG was in my way earlier, I was like, okay, I'm gonna hope that he doesn't have this move being the Dragon Pulse or any kind of a special attacking move, that it wasn't Ice Beam, so that my Alamomola can beat it. And I wanted to kind of quickly finish off the Manaphy before it starts to RNG me down or even further by critting me or freezing me. So at this point I was like, he has the Dragon Pulse, he kind of got this game. So I would expect him to finish me out with 2 Dragon Pulses from here. But he goes for the Roost instead. I was like, oh, I should have clicked Light Screen here, because then maybe I could have pulled off a pretty cheesy 1-0 win with a Light Screen, Toxic and Wish shenanigans. But you're gonna be able to see that even if I went for the Light Screen, the RNG was like, nah, it's not gonna be happening anyway. So in a hindsight where I should have done the Light Screen play instead of just picking Liquidation, kind of accepting my fate of losing this 1-0. In a hindsight, seeing that how the RNG kind of did the things on that turn and he crit me with the Dragon Pulse, it showed that it didn't matter if I got the Light Screen off, because he would have critted through the Light Screen and the result would have been the same. If he didn't crit me on that turn, then 100% I could have had, in a hindsight, a better chance if I just made my better move. But that's just Pokemon for you. It is what it is. We do have to unfortunately take our first loss of this season in 1-0 fashion to OPJellicent. Good game to him, even though it was very... It was an RNG factor. It was pretty ironic that I did say before we started battling, hopefully we can have a clean battle and no disconnections, which is a big thing on Wi-Fi, that if those happens it can be very annoying to try to recreate it. And both of us were like, yeah, let's have a clean play game, and hopefully it's gonna be a solid one for people to show this today for everyone. But things didn't really go in our way. It was more in favor of OPJellicent. I don't think he played definitely like bad this game. I think he made the proper plays, and every single play that I saw him doing, I can see why he did them, and I can agree with them. When it comes to my behalf, there were a few mistakes that I made. The turn 1 and 2 kind of like the scenarios versus the Rotom Heat, I could have played it a lot better. Just hard swap immediately into Diancie, for example, or maybe into Dragossi. But I would have said that I should have gone into my Diancie and done it immediately, what I end up doing anyways, after I allowed my Glyceol getting burned, and not try to hope for that they didn't have a Will-O-Wisp and Defog on that same set, and leaving me in a position that I didn't get anything out of that trade-off. So I could have played it a lot better on that instance. And then obviously the timer, when I timed myself out, I could have made a lot better out of the turn than having to force him to go into Alomomola. In a hindsight, I should have... What should I have gone? I feel like I should have gone into Diancie at that point and gone for a Trick Room and get most out of the damage output that I could have gotten into like Manaphy, for example, and gone from there. But even then, I'm not sure if that would have made the difference for me to win, but that's just the theory most at this point. We have to accept the fate. The good thing about it is that all of these things that went wrong either from my behalf or from the RNG make it a lot more harder for me than it needed to, and kind of arguably made it harder for me than I made it to myself. Even after all that, the silver lining is that we had to only take that 0-1 loss versus OPJellicent, and considering all that, I'm definitely okay with that, and I feel like I learned a lot from the matchup in itself. I feel confident if I have to face him in a playoffs, I have a better feel of the matchup in itself. I have more confidence that I had going into this, that I can find my ways to win. And I feel like this is a matchup that I can get my revenge of if I get the opportunity. But we have our work cut out for ourselves to even give ourselves the chance, because I am sitting at 1-1 and +2 at this point, and we have to start trying to make sure that we get more wins to be able to secure us at the top 8 seed, or one of the top 8 seeds for the playoffs, and hopefully we get the chance to play OPJellicent again. But that's all for me from my behalf. Make sure to check out my opponent, OPJellicent. He has a way bigger channel than I do. He does do his battles on live commentary, if I believe. If I remember right, I think at least week 1 he did. Hopefully he did live commentary on this one as well. So you can go check it out from his perspective in that regard, and compare to my post commentary. Thank you yet again for watching. Stay tuned for week 3 team builder and battle video, which is gonna be coming next week, which we are gonna be going up against GoldoaDragon and New York Empoleons, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's gonna be a fun experience to get to face him for the first time. But until then, thank you yet again for watching, and until next time, I'm gonna be seeing you guys later.